Thank you very much for joining me. Here we are, moving along in our MIM series, and I am very excited about today. So I'm not going to do much of an introduction. I'm just going to say we're going to tie in a human resources database into Identity Manager. So let's get right into it. So I have created a mock human resources database actually on our MIM server. And I just went through and I tried to create it, keeping in mind that there have been some practices with databases that may not always make sense 10 years down the road, if that makes sense. So I have a people's table. So if we select that, we have the ID that the HR system gives, the first, middle, and last name, the employee number, the office, address, zip code, phone number, title, department, status, and employee type. All of these items and a few others we're actually going to update in Active Directory. So if we just scroll through and actually look at the data, the first name, middle name, and last name look correct. Employee number looks correct. The office, what does that look like? That's just a number. Okay. The address, zip code, the address looks correct. The zip code and phone number look a little bit off. It looks like there's no validation on the application entering in these numbers. The title looks pretty good, as does the department, but the status and employee type are just numbers. So what I've done is I've created an employee type table, which I've seen, they usually reference another table that has the actual statuses or employee types in there. So that's exactly what I've done. The employee type on the person references the ID, so that's employee type 1 references the employee type 1 of contractor. Same thing with statuses. So we have 3 or more tables that we need to gather some information from. So first thing that I like to do is kind of type out what I want. So I want first name, we're going to use middle name, last name, employee number. I don't like that office, but I do need to know where the office is. So I'll do office, address, zip code, phone number, title, department, status, and employee type. So that's all the fields I'm going to gather. But there may be a couple other fields that we actually create without even thinking about it, like the display name. If we don't have Exchange to generate that for us, then we may need to do that ourselves when we're creating the users. So I'm going to create display name, or I want the display name. And something else, it's actually, you may not think about it, but you actually tell it where the account is created. So the target OU that it's created in. So let's start out with these values. We're going to get all of this information, and at the very least, that's what we need to create these accounts in Active Directory. Now remember, we already have a way of generating the username, so we'll do that in the portal. So let's start typing out the SQL query here. So we're going to select, and we'll just say p.firstname, and we'll do p.middlename, because all of these are actually in the people table. So we'll put p in front of each of these. but I don't like office, so I'm not going to take it from there. So I'm just going to put 2 apostrophes. We have department. I don't like status, so I'll put 2 apostrophes. I don't like employee type, so I'm putting 2 apostrophes. And display name, I don't know where I'm getting that yet, so I'll put apostrophes, and same for the target OU. So we're going to select all of those from people. And we put P in front of there, so if we do space P, all of our errors should go away. So we'll run that query and see what it looks like. Okay, it's looking pretty good. But let's go ahead, and here are some easy ones. The status. The status is in the status table. So we can do a left join status S on P dot status is equal to S dot ID. Now if we go up and say S dot status and rerun that, we should have statuses that make sense to us. So let's do the same thing for employee type. Left join employee type ET on P dot employee type is equal to ET.ID. We'll go up and say ET dot employee type. And we'll rerun that and go over, and we have things that make sense to us again. Wonderful. So we're halfway there, right? Display name is also an easy one because that is usually last name, comma, first name. In some cases, it's also last name, comma, first name, space, middle initial. And that's what we're going to do. But if you look, we have some middle names that are nulls because not everybody has middle names, right? So how are we going to handle that? Well, there's a SQL command or a SQL function, whatever you want to call it, method called case. So it's basically if this, then that, but it's handled in a much better way because apparently SQL handles ifs in a weird way. Anyways, so on the display name, what we'll do, we'll say case when middle name is null, then, and I'm just going to put a placeholder in here. Then we're going to do nothing. Else this, and then we'll say end. And so if we run that, we should still get the display name of nothing. And we do. So when the middle name is null, we're just going to have last name, comma, space, first name. So let's do that. So we'll do P dot last name plus comma space plus P dot first name. So let's run that. And I scroll over to the right, and we have our display names of the people without middle names. So if they do have a middle name, we'll use something very similar. We'll do P dot last name plus comma space P dot first name plus a space, and then we'll do left P dot middle name and then one character of that. And then we'll run that and we'll scroll over to the right and we have our display names. Now, 2 things that we don't have filled in yet are office and our target OU. But they're related. But let's go ahead, and the value we do have is P dot office. So let's pull that and see. So there are numbers here. These could be numbers that are associated to a table, or they could be internal numbers. So I know, since I created the database, Office of 2010 is the main office. Office of 1010 is the remote office. I wanted to show you another instance of a case. Let's go up to Office here, and let's say case when p.office is equal to 2010, then main office, else remote office. And then we have to have the end at the very end of that. Then we'll run that. And we have the main office and remote office. Now, if you have more codes, you can just say, you can just modify this a little bit. Case when p.office is equal to 2010, then main office. Well, we can also say when p.office is equal to 1010, then remote office. And you can continue on with each of your codes, and it'll give you the same type of results. But for now, we don't really need to do that since we only have 2 codes. We'll actually do that in a little bit. Actually, we're doing it now on the target OU. Because we have a main office and a remote office. We also have a contractors and a staff OU. So let's type out these OUs first. So we have OU is equal to staff. OU is equal to main office. DC is equal to sandbox. DC is equal to local. That's our first one. Our next one is contractors at the same office. And then we have staff and contractors at the remote office. So how are we going to handle these? Well, we have the employee type of contractor. We also have main office. So let's start out with the main office or remote office first. So let's do case when p.office, and we have to go back and use those codes, 2010, then it's the main office, right? So we'll just take that same code as before and copy it. And I'm going to return these on 2 separate lines so we can see it a little easier. Now we need to check to see if they're a contractor or not. So inside of that, then we can say case when et.employee type is equal to contractor. Then else and end. So let's think about this for a second. So when they're a contractor at the main office, then they're going to get the contractor's main office OU. Otherwise, they'll be in the staff. Now we need to do the same thing, except we're at the remote office now. Case when et.employee type is equal to contractor, then else, and end. So on the then, they are a contractor. So we'll grab the contractor's OU, paste that in there, and then we'll grab the staff OU. It's going in the else because they are not a contractor. So now if we run that, at the very end, we should have the correct OU for whether it's a contractor or a staff member at the main or remote office. So this is all fine and dandy, but how are we going to get this into Identity Manager? Because the only management agents we have are SQL management agents, and well, I can tell you right now, we can't use a SQL query to pull in. So we have to take an additional step. What I like to use, and I forget who I saw this from. I think he created the FIM PowerShell management agent. I need to find his name, and if I do, I'll give him credit in the description. But he had an AI database, is what he called it. So I've kind of adapted that. Now the portal can do these calculations, but it's built upon SharePoint, and it may take longer because there are many pieces there than it would to run this query in milliseconds, because you can see this query, I know it's only 99 rows, but it was ran almost immediately. So let MIM do what it does best, that is synchronize, and take as much of the workflow or take as much of the work off of MIM as you can. The comparing, the changing of the expressions, the modifying of the data, capitalizing everything, making things proper case. Take that away from FIM. Let something that's used to doing that handle it. So what I'm going to do is create a new database here, and I'm going to call it the AI database. And I'm just going to say OK. And I'm going to refresh to get it at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new table in here. I'm not going to have an ID, but what I will do is go through and add each of these headers the way I want them labeled as columns. That way they're visible easily when we're going and creating our management agent. So I'm just going to take these exact names and move them over into the table here. So now that I have these typed up, I'm actually going to go back to my Object Explorer and go through the actual columns and make them the exact type as they are in the source. Now, when I get to status and employee type, I'm actually going to go into the database that has the actual field I'm displaying. The display name, that's a generated field. So the display name uses the first, middle, and last. So I'm just going to do easy calculate math. If I combined all three, the max it can ever be is 150. You can definitely set that to, and I'm going to do invarchar here. You can definitely set that to something that makes more sense to you. You can set that to max, whatever works for you. But what I will set to max in varchar max is the target OU. And I'm going to allow all of these to be null except for the employee number, because that's going to be my ID that I reference between MIM and SQL. But I'm not going to set this as a primary key. I'm going to just go ahead and save it as people. Okay, we'll leave this window open because we need to actually set this to run on a schedule and populate the people database. So what we're going to do is actually create a stored procedure by going underneath programmability, underneath our AI database, and right-clicking stored procedure and saying new stored procedure. And so we just need to modify a couple things here. So create procedure and then the procedure name. So we'll take the rest of that line and say, I'm just going to call it update people. We don't have any parameters, so I'm just going to remove those. And then we have an as begin, set count, and then select. So we'll just remove that select line here. Now there's going to be data in the people table already. So we need to clear everything out. So to do that, we'll say truncate table people. And actually, I'm going to make that the fully qualified path there. And now we'll get out of the begin and end and go ahead and create another begin and end. And we'll say insert into ai.dbo.people. Then we have to tell it what to select. Well, we're selecting this entire query we just had. I'll copy that and paste it. Now I have some errors in here because I didn't reference the full path. I'm in a different database. So what I'm going to do is actually specify the human resources.dbo.people and the human resources.dbo.status, as well as the human resources.dbo.employee type. And actually, I noticed I have this in the wrong spot here. We'll take this beginning and end, and we'll actually put a new begin and end inside those original begins and ends. And then we'll execute it, and the command completed successfully. So now if we refresh our stored procedure, we have the update people procedure. If we right click and say execute stored procedure and then just say OK, we get 0 return value. But if we do a select from the people table, we have all of our people updated. Now this takes, I have done 30,000 records doing this calculation and more. It takes mere 5 seconds on a heavy day of actually doing synchronizations at the time. So this is minuscule. It happens, I usually set it every hour, and later on we'll actually go through and I'll show you what we can do to improve some things instead of importing the full table. But that's the bulk of it. We have all of the information. So this was kind of a little squeal or SQL. Okay, what do we do? So that helps some things out when we actually import it into MIM. So actually what we need to do, one last thing before we get over to MIM, is we need to take this little command and go down to our SQL Server agent underneath jobs, and we'll right click and say new job. and we'll say update staff. The steps, we'll say a new step. We'll say update staff, and it's a transact squeal script. And we'll just paste that little command in there and change the database to our AI. In advanced, we don't need to do anything. We'll just say OK. In schedules, I'll create a new schedule. I'll just say update staff again. It's going to be reoccurring. It reoccurs daily. 12 a.m. Well, no, we'll do every 1 hour starting at 12 a.m. And then we'll say OK. Then OK again. So now, boom, we're scheduled at every hour on the hour. It's going to update the AI database from the human resources database. Now back over to our synchronization service manager. So we'll go to management agents and then we'll say create. And we're going to choose a SQL server. The name is going to be, I'm just going to call it AI. And then we'll say next. The server, it's actually the local host. The database is AI. The table is people. We're not going to do a delta or multi-value view just yet. The username is going to be underscore MIM, M-A, and our password and our domain. Then we'll say next. And it failed to retrieve the schema. Don't forget to give that account data reader and data writer access to that new database you just created. Then we'll say next and we can move on. So it lists all of the columns in the database. We could edit them if we want to, but we don't need to. We do need to set an anchor, and that is going to be the employee number. That's the DN of the objects. The object type is person. We'll say OK and next. We're not going to configure a filter, join or provisioning rules, or provision attribute flow. We're going to leave the deprovisioning as make them disconnectors. And then we'll leave the extension as it is and say finished. So now let's jump over to our MIM portal and go down to our synchronization rules. Now one thing, let's open up the inbound AD synchronization rule. Then underneath the scope, uncheck the create resource in FIM. It's no longer going to be the authoritative source. We're going to make our HR database the authoritative source. So if they're not in that database, an account's not getting created. We need something to match Active Directory and our human resource database. So that would be the employee ID number. That's something I have in both places. So I need to actually go to the inbound attribute flow and then add employee ID to employee ID and say OK, OK, and submit. And then we'll say new synchronization rule. We're going to call it AI inbound. And it's an inbound flow. We'll say next. Metaverse resource type is a person. The external system is AI. The external system resource type is person. There's going to be no inbound scoping filters. We'll leave it as it is. We want to capture everyone. We'll say next. The relationship criteria this time is going to be employee ID in the metaverse to employee number in the data source or the connected system. We will say create a resource in FIM if it does not exist, and we'll say next. And on the inbound attribute flow, we'll go into the source, and I'm going to start off with employee number. It goes to the employee ID. First name to first name, last name to last name, middle name to middle name, office to physical delivery office name, phone number to telephone number, title to description, title to title, zip code to postal code, employee type to employee type, display name to display name, department to department, address to postal address, and target OU to OU. We'll say next and submit. Before we start running the import and synchronization run profiles, we need to go to administration and then schema management. Then we'll click on all bindings. And underneath that, we need to do a search for employee. And then underneath employee type, we'll open that up and go to validation. In here, when something attempts to update the employee type attribute, the MIM portal is going to say, hey, you have to match this regular expression, otherwise you're going to fail. So our employee types are contractor, intern, but it's not full-time employee. So we need to change that to full-time. And we also need to add, so we'll do an or a pipe, part-time. And so we'll say OK on that and then submit. And now we need to go to the All Attributes button and search for employee type again and do the exact same thing. So now let's go to our synchronization service and do a full import on the MIM service. And then we'll do a full synchronization as well. Now if we go to our Metaverse Designer, this may be something we need to check temporarily. We need to do Active Directory employee IDs first, but we already have Active Directory and the AI importing. So let's take a look at the flow precedence for employee ID. So AI is first, and then AD is second. So let's move AD at the top. This may not, I don't think this really is needed in this scenario, but I'm just going to do it to prevent any issues. So I'm going to move AD first and say OK. And then I'm going to do a full synchronization of AD. Now it's wanting to export all of the employee IDs to the MIM service. And I'll go ahead and let it do that. I'll go ahead and export to the MIM service. And then we'll do a full import and a full sync. Now we can go back to the Metaverse Designer underneath Person, and then underneath the Employee ID Attribute Flow Precedence, we'll move the AI back to the first position. And now we can configure run profiles on our AI management agent. But I'm only going to create a full import and full sync. We don't have it configured for a Delta import, so I'm not going to worry about a Delta sync either. And we do not need to export to this. This is only going to be inbound only. We don't need to update it right now. And I'll just say OK. And now we'll do a full import on the AI management agent. And there are 99 ads. So I'll click on this and just open one up. and preview the full synchronization. So let's go to Source Object Details. This is everything that's in the SQL database. The join and projection, this is important. So join rule 1 is a metaverse object type of person. Resolution was a match. So it matched the employee number to the employee ID in the metaverse. And there's the value. You can click on the matches and see who it was matched with. And on the import attribute flow, if we look at the inbound synchronization, we're seeing probably the bottom half of these attributes have the precedence, but the first name, last name, and display name do not. And I can tell that because it says skipped not precedent, but everything else is applied. On the connector updates, we can see if it's going to trigger an export, which it is to the MIM service. It's going to export the employee type. And in Active Directory, it's not going to trigger an export. So we'll say close out of these and we'll go ahead and run a full synchronization. So we had some errors here. About 6 people didn't join. I can tell you right now that's because these had a 0 at the front of their employee ID. So in Active Directory it showed 037585, but in SQL it stripped the leading 0. So we'll save that so we can actually fix these later on. But we'll go ahead and close, and we're ready to export to the MIM service. So we'll run that and export. So we have 93 updates and 6 adds. Those 6 adds were incorrect. We'll fix them. We'll probably do it in the next video so that because that might take a little too much time. And so we'll finish this sequence and do a full import, and then we'll do the full sync. So now if we jump over to the MIM portal underneath users and do a search and open up any one of these people, on the work info tab, we should have the employee ID and employee type. We're slowly making progress, but the important thing is that we're making one change at a time. If you make too many changes, your data could just blow up and it could be hard to recover from. Those 6 changes are going to be easy to fix. If there were all 99 that had issues, that might be a little harder. So I'm going to leave the video here, but thank you very much for watching and joining me. If you liked it, please hit my little bitty thumbs up button. You could subscribe, or you can add comments, or do all 3. I won't judge you if you do. But thank you again, and I hope to see you next time.